What's up, Zach here, and today I have got the TreadLabs semi-custom orthotic, and as the name would suggest, these are quite a bit different than a lot of the other over-the-counter orthotics we've been testing recently. The philosophy, the design, the shape, really everything about these is, to me, a lot different versus the others. Whether or not that's a good thing or not, if that's gonna help your foot pain or prevent foot pain for you, that's a completely different story, but they are different enough that I think this is going to be quite an interesting video. And thank you to TreadLabs for getting me a pair of these to check out. However, as you will find out very soon, this video is by no means sponsored, and all opinions on these, good, bad, and indifferent, are always my own. All right, so getting into the actual orthotics here, honestly, I've had quite a bit of experience with these. I've had quite a few patients that have walked in with these orthotics in my office. I always find them pretty interesting to look at when they come in because there are so many different combinations you can make with these. Now, the philosophy of TreadLabs is quote unquote semi-customization. That doesn't mean custom. These are not made to your foot. It just means that you can mix and match the top covers and the bottom to your liking. Now, these are the Pace 2s. These are kind of like their middle of the road. And that's kind of what I try to test out in a lot of these videos. It's just kind of their middle of the road medium arch sport, kind of their flagship line orthotic. And with these, it seems like the top cover on these, because you can just take them off, right? They're just Velcroed in. It looks like an open cell foam, the entire top cover, and then it's a really big open cell polyurethane plug in the heel that goes into this hole in the heel down below. Now, what I noticed is when I first take mine out of the box, that Velcro is actually pretty secure. If you wouldn't know any better, you would think that they are glued in, right? And that the glue job is just bad, right? Because they kind of move around. But as you take them off again, what you'll notice as you take them on and off again, you'll notice they kind of start pinching in here on the lateral side and on the medial side. And what I've noticed in my office is usually what starts happening is somewhere along here they start tearing because there's just more motion here available, right? There's just a little more abnormal motion available. And versus a new one where it's kind of hard to take off, as soon as you start putting them back on and off again, you do start to lose a little bit of the tight fit of the Velcro, right? It just isn't as strong of a connection after a while. That also seems to be the case if you're a really heavy sweater in your shoes. So you want to take these out of your shoes to dry if you are a heavy sweater, because that does seem to break down the connection of the actual plate as well as the top cover. Look at this thing on the bounce height test. I did do a bounce height on these things. I only got 12 centimeters in the forefoot, did get 24 in the rear foot, just showing you that in terms of bounce or pop, more is better apparently with polyurethane foam. Now, if you're looking for more of a shock absorbing feeling, then these are definitely going to be a little bit better in terms of that shock absorptive feeling versus something like the Power Step Bridge, versus something like the Blue Maca, versus something like the Move Baselines, right? Those are a little bit more poppy type feeling, a little more springy and elastic underneath your foot. These are much more dull, much more shock absorbing, which, yeah, I mean, quite a bit different. Doesn't mean it's better or worse, it's just different. Now, this does come in different thicknesses, so you can get the ultra low profile ones of these. Those are gonna feel like a little bit less in your shoe, but you will be able to fit them in lower profile shoes. That is nice. I think that the most important thing you gotta look at, obviously, is the actual shell. Now, this one, and when they talked to me, they said this is their medium arch. This is kind of like their flagship, right? This is kind of the catch-all, right? And what's interesting is that the arch height on the medium is actually pretty low. It only comes in at 2 centimeters. The arch length is only 9.4 centimeters. So it's just a really small arch in terms of length and height. Now, if it were me and you're trying to compare these to, like I say, you're looking for a comparison, if you're looking at something like the Bridge, the Pinnacle, the Val Soles, anything like a standard Move orthotic, things like that, to me, you kind of have to go to the high. Like, you really have to, I would just size these up into the high because the medium is going to be a much lower orthotic. The lows in these, I think, is more going to be something just like an insole replacement, right? Not necessarily anything functional. So I would say if you're going to buy these and you're looking to do anything in terms of comparison to other off-the-shelf, kind of like the other more popular off-the-shelf orthotics, you really do kind of have to size up into the high arch because the lows of the mediums are really just, like I said, the mediums do something, but they're getting way more into that insole replacement line versus actual functional orthotic type line. Now, this is a composite orthotic with a hole in the heel for the polyurethane, so that's kind of it. Then it's got the Velcro on it, so it's nothing, out of the world crazy. Thing is, the one thing that was kind of crazy and much different was, look at this thing on the tensiometer. It only took 59.1 newtons to collapse this arch. And it wasn't linear, right? It took a lot more newtons to get it to start deforming, but then once it did, it just went down. Whereas the other orthotics where it's pretty linear going all the way down. The other comparable orthotics, it's somewhere in the 80s to 100 range. The super stiff orthotics get into that, $120, $40, $160 range. And so those are like the really stiff ones. This one is much more flexible. And when I had it on foot, I could tell. There is zero break-in on these whatsoever. I mean, they are as comfortable gets. Now, that does mean, like I said, they are gonna be more flexible, and they do guarantee, million-mile guarantee, that the arch will last forever. It's just that it's gonna last forever, but it's gonna last forever, right? Like, look how easy it is to just bend this. It's gonna last forever as a pretty semi-flexible to flexible orthotic. Now, there's a lot of people out there that will want that. I myself like more flexible orthotics. I have a very rigid high arch. I like to flex the orthotic, and that's why I wear the bridge so much, because that one is also flexible. And now this was an old bridge, and it still is not flexing as much as the Tread Labs. This has been used a lot. And so, as you can see, the whole design philosophy on these does seem to be going for shock absorptive comfort. That's these. In terms of weight, they're pretty comparable to everything else. They're not super heavy at all, but there's that for those. So that's what they're made of. What are they actually good for? What would I recommend them for? Do I like them for anything? In terms of a flat, neutral, or high arch, the nice thing about these is you can step up the orthotic, and because this composite shell is so flexible, even if you go higher arch, you're fine, right? Like they'll flatten out. Not flatten out, they'll flatten out a little bit. They'll flex a lot for you. So that's the nice part to me, is that you can break in even a higher arch. So maybe let's say your podiatrist wants you to have a higher arched orthotic. You're like, man, it's gonna be tough to get used to these. Well, this might be a nice thing to start with. In terms of ankle sprainers, they wouldn't be the first thing I would get, just because nothing is attached. So if it starts moving on you, you could lose proprioception. So I don't think they're terrible for an ankle sprainer. The other thing, actually, you know what? I'm gonna put an extra, because this polyurethane piece that comes down the bottom, it does introduce a little bit of a riser, and depending on your foot, you could wear it down abnormally. Like, I only got 1 degree of correction from these versus 2 degrees I get on the bridge. I don't correct that much anyway, so I mean, everybody's gonna be different with these, because like my heel doesn't correct that much as it is, because I'm pretty rigid. But I did get the max amount of correction on the bridges versus only 1 degree on these. So you might get a little bit of abnormal wear on the back, so I don't think I would do these for ankle sprainers. In terms of plantar fasciitis, I think they're okay as long as you get the higher arched version of these, so you actually take pressure off of the heel, and as long as these are locked in to a shoe with a really nice heel counter, like a stiff heel counter, right? Because you just don't want, I may see on this camera better, these things just can move a little bit in the rear foot because of this thing. So once this starts pushing in a little bit, but then like once it starts pushing in, like I said, you're gonna get some abnormal wear. So you better have a shoe with a really strong heel counter. The same thing for Achilles. It's really gonna depend on the heel counter of the shoe if these are gonna be good, because this polyurethane insert comes out so much. You can always just lop it off, right? You can always just shave it down, and that might help. In terms of forefoot pain, I think if you get the thicker version of it, they're okay, especially because you can get a wide version to fit in a wider toe box shoe, and you can cut these down better. So honestly, these are one of the better ones out there if you're gonna get more of an anatomic toe box shoe. So I like that a lot for sure, because you can just cut them to really whatever you want. So that's nice, and I think that when we get into the price comparison, that'll be worth that. In terms of arch pain, if you get the high arch of them, if you get the high arch version, why is this not working? I gotta get new markers. But if you get the high arch version of these, I think they're okay for that. Big toe arthritis, nah, you probably just need something a little bit more supportive in that arch. And you also want something maybe with either a plastic or composite carbon fiber plate in the forefoot. So, I mean, put it this way, they'll be better than having nothing in your shoe for sure, but I think they're just better out there. Ones that have a longer, not necessarily the height of the arch, but the length of the arch. The longer the arch is gonna be better for that big toe arthritis. So I don't think I would do that for that. Knee and back pain, yeah, sure, they're fine. Low volume shoes, yeah, you can put these in the lowest volume shoes you want because they come in different top covers. That brings me to the price comparison on these things. Now, these things start at $79.99 US. That is a hefty price tag. So they are pricey, and then the replacement top covers run you 20. So, you know, if these are guaranteed and you can get into the system, I think they're okay. But if you're wearing down the Velcro on this, I wonder if they'll guarantee the Velcro, right? That's something I would want to know. Like if this is guaranteed, then I think that that's cool, right? Because then this will last. It's just that, like I said, I still think this is gonna start breaking down. I mean, I've just seen them break down over time, right? And it's weird because like on a lot of other composite orthotics that have the hole in the heel, they're really strong around that hole in the heel, and they break down more around the arch. Whereas like this one, you can actually like really see it moving around that hole in the heel. So I think that is kind of like the weak spot. Like that's like the stress riser in these things. So I'd love to know in the comments if you've had success taking these, like, you know, sending this back, right? Or getting a replacement arch. So you do have a lot of choices with the Tread Labs, and for the price, like I said, once you get into the system, if you like this format of orthotic, then honestly, it's gonna be a nice long-term play for you. It's just if you want a longer, broader, more stout arch, you're gonna wanna go with something else. If you want the more flexible arch, get the higher arched version of it. That way, when you're flexing it, you're still flexing a bigger arch on your foot. So yeah, I mean, like I said, I think for the right person, I think they're great. Do I think they're the be all end all of orthotics? No. But it is interesting to see kind of what their philosophy is. You just might end up with having to buy more top covers on these, put it that way. So like I said, love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below, especially if you're someone that's wearing these for more wider toe box shoes, which is, like I said, I think is the best use case of these, and definitely where they're worth the money, because then you can get a really nice secure fit. On other orthotics, let's say you're getting like a Blue Maca or a Bridge or something like that, you have to size the orthotic up so that you can then cut the top cover to those types of shoes, where you can get this in your standard size, right, and just cut it that way. So like I said, love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. And speaking of the Power Step Bridge, these are the ones, like I said, I do recommend the most in my office. If you want to see why and if they're right for you, because they're not gonna be right for everybody, but you see if they're right for you, make sure you click into this video right here. I'll see you in the next video.